Well, for more, we're joined now by Dougoukolo Ba-Konare, who teaches, well, the history and the anthropology of the Fulani people at INALCO, the French Modern Languages Institute. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
You heard what the Justice Minister said in that report. What's your reaction?
Well, I'm kind of doubtful because there have been so many promises for years, and we have been trying to call attention to this issue of massacres in central Mali. And before that, there were exactions by people from the army, and there have never been any arrests about those. So when the government say that they're going to bring justice, I feel like they don't have the means to do it.
And of course, the big fear now is if you murder 157 people in this manner, there's going to be retribution. There are going to be people seeking revenge. What do you do?
Well, definitely. I think that now the Fulani people are traumatized. This is an ethnic cleansing. I mean, we can go around words. This is what the militia is trying to do. And many of the Fulani people in the countryside feel like they're afraid. They don't know who to turn to because the state is not there. And my great fear is that now people are going to want to fight back, and they will be fighting back maybe Dogon civilians. And I am afraid that the jihadists will seize that opportunity. And I think the government really needs to have an interposition force so that people can just, be protected from each other.
And then the UN sending a team there, some kind of peacekeeping force between the two sides. What more can Mali's president, Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta, do?
After the massacre, the president changed the hierarchy of the army. So a couple of generals were dismissed, and he brought in new people. The government decided to disband the militia. But to me, disbanding the militia is not going to change anything on the field, because they replied saying that they will fight to the end. They're willing to fight the Malian army. And replacing the generals, I don't really know what the strategy is behind that, because the people who were there before, they were competent. I think it's a problem of having a political decision about central Mali. So much of our attention has been on northern Mali. And even the agreements in Algiers in 2015 have focused a lot on the north of the country. We need a special plan for the center.
Yeah, the Mali, a poor nation, landlocked in West Africa. There's been this tacit outsourcing because the government doesn't have the means to put soldiers everywhere of law and order to vigilante groups. I mean, they're called traditional hunters, the Dozos. But in a sense, they become vigilante groups, as they did in the past with the Camajors in Sierra Leone and other places. And then you have this ethnic score settling that follows. So it's a story of poverty in a way?
I think that it's a story of absence of state. People have been poor since forever. I mean, there wasn't a dramatic change in the way that they had access to means of production. But the insecurity brought on by the jihadists and other groups in the area, this is something that created paranoia within the people, and they started to be tangled in this sort of revenge and vendetta cycle. And because the government isn't there to interpose and to mete out justice, there's no way that people will stop now.
Can the UN do anything?
I think that what the UN can do is really try to enforce justice with the Malian government.
Because you have the peacekeeping force that's been there since 2013 when the jihadists were chased from the north.
Yeah, indeed. So I think that one aspect is investigating and also helping Mali with an independent justice. But I also think that the MINUSMA should change its positions about central Mali. I mean, I've had to deal with some people from the MINUSMA, and they dispatched a couple of people on the field to protect civilians, and it actually worked when they were able to do interposition. But the problem is that most of the time they're not available, they're too far away, and it doesn't feel like central Mali is a concern. So this is going to need discussion because the militias have killed more people than the jihadists.
And Dougoukolo Ba-Konare, the story that's happening in central Mali, of course, there's a jihadist context that we talk about, But this is a story resonating a lot with our viewers, particularly in places like Nigeria, where we've seen conflicts between farmers and herdsmen. And this is a story as well of population growth and competition for land.
Well, my organization has also been following what's happening in Taraba State and other parts of central Nigeria. I think that the main difference with Mali is that in Mali, Fulani people have been able to roam everywhere. They're present in most of the country. They don't come from one specific region, and people tolerated the cows coming in, the stampede. But now with population growth, indeed, but also with special plans that focus on agriculture and farming, there is less and less land for herdsmen to bring in the cattle. And because of that, tensions rise, and this is why we need the justice and the state to be here just to separate people.
Separate people, but you need a longer-term plan, don't you?
Yeah.
What can we do? Land corridors for the cattle to roam?
I think that in a lot of countries, they're experimenting special routes for the cattle. But in central Mali, for 2 centuries, there was actually a set route which cattle could walk on. And they had to have agreements with the local farming communities, of course. So a sort of balance was possible. But when you bring in outside factors and that there are antagonisms that run deep between communities, this is when everything falls apart.
Dougoukolo Ba-Konare, many thanks for joining us.
Thank you.